Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Thanks for hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jacob back and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos, and plenty to do as that transfer portal never really stops. Got LSU folks going in. Got a lot of players from around the country going in as well, and LSU starting to set up some visits with some prospects. We'll talk about that. Glenn West, go 24/7 with us in 30 minutes. Got to talk to Sharif Ishak in the second hour. I want to talk a little Saints running game, specifically Kendre Miller here in the next segment. So lots and lots to do here on this Tuesday. And again, appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We'll start today same way we start every day with a little Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
So now we're starting to get some clarity, and I use that term pretty loosely. We're starting to get some clarity as to some of the players that LSU is going to target in the transfer portal. It's mayhem. There are thousands and thousands of players in the transfer portal, and you just kind of, it's like a dog chasing cars. I mean, there's always another one going the other way. And so based on reporting, some from the national level, some from the local level, we've got an idea as to some of the players early on that LSU is taking some interest in, and that interest may be reciprocated. So let's go through some of these players and how much sense they make for LSU moving forward. And before I get into it, I want to suggest, obviously, as of 5 weeks ago, I didn't feel super awesome about LSU's prospects in 2025. You're talking about a lot of key pieces moving on and then a really difficult schedule. And I'll say this, starting to see some of these names leak out and understand just how much talent is available this time of year for next year's team, you start to look at it and go, oh, you can get a lot better. And we knew that, but at the point you're saying it in November, if you're saying that on November the 13th, you don't know anybody that's going to be in the transfer portal. Now you're starting to see some names, and I can start to, even though LSU's not going to get all these guys I'm listing, I can start to look at some of these players and go, oh, yeah, that makes a big difference. Oh, he would fit there, and you could shore that up. And you start to understand the exact pieces that could come in, not will, but could come in and really make this roster look whole. Yesterday, I went through the top portal needs that LSU had. Talked about wide receiver, talked about edge, talked about safety, talked about tight end. These are places, including the offensive line, you've got to shore up. So let's start to look at some of the names that we know LSU is expressing some interest in right now. Off the top of the list is Luke Hasz. Luke Hasz was a top 100 player in the country. He was a consensus 4-star out of the state of Oklahoma, and he signed with Arkansas 2 years ago. He came on in his true freshman season right out of the gate that first month and was great for Arkansas. Really had an immediate impact on that Arkansas offense. Then he got hurt, and he missed the second half of his freshman season, and he came back this year, and his numbers weren't eye-catching, but he did lead Arkansas in touchdown catches. It was 4, but he led the team in touchdown catches. Over 2 seasons, which was basically a year and a half because he missed a half a year to injury, he had 42 catches, 577 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He's 6'3". He's over 240 pounds. He's played in the SEC. He is an absolute proven commodity in that way, and he is going to visit LSU today. He's reportedly going to stay through tomorrow, and he's also going to make trips to Ole Miss and Alabama. This is a guy who is from Oklahoma, went to Arkansas, visiting LSU, Ole Miss, and Bama. You get a sense that he wants to be in the SEC. And I feel like LSU's pitch to Luke Hasz is a pretty good one. Just see, these are our 2 guys we got here. You're a little more filled out than those two guys are. You're a little bit more complete a football player than those two guys are at tight end. And oh, by the way, the guy we just had in that position at tight end is probably going to be an All-American and probably going to be a second-day draft pick, and is the most productive player at that position in the history of our school. And oh, by the way, you don't even have to just look at this offense. Go back to Notre Dame where Brian Kelly was just pumping tight ends into the NFL like an assembly line. It's a pretty good pitch. Now, obviously, dollars and cents are going to come into this, and that's where we got to see whether or not LSU is going to play ball at the top of this sport. But it makes a lot of sense that LSU could land Luke Hasz. And I also like when players go into the transfer portal, what the reaction is from that side, the fan base, the media members. And Arkansas fans were really disappointed to see Luke Hasz go in the transfer portal. So that's a guy that really made an impression up there on the Hill in 2 seasons. We'll see if LSU can rule him in. I think that would be a fantastic get for the Tigers. Second player that is starting to be reported that LSU has sincere interest in and looks like has some interest in LSU as well and has already set up a visit. That's Will Helt. He is an edge rusher from Purdue. 6'6", 250 pounds, long, rangy, has filled out, was a 3-star recruit when he signed at Purdue, has played 2 years there, and then last season in 2024, 56 tackles playing defensive end for Purdue, 5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, which is, I believe, 10th in the Big Ten for TFLs. That's production, that's size, that is a position of need. This sounds great to me. Now, he is from the Midwest, and he is going to visit LSU and Texas A&M reportedly. We know that Texas A&M took Nick Scorton from Purdue last year. He had a monster year at Purdue, had a good year at Texas A&M, especially in terms of tackles for loss. The sack numbers were a little bit down, but he's going to be a top 20 pick in the NFL draft. How good of friends is he with Nick Scorton? And does he feel the same way about Texas A&M that Nick Scorton did? Keep in mind, Helt is from the Midwest. Nick Scorton is from Bryan, Texas, which, if you're unfamiliar, Bryan, College Station, are sister cities. So he's literally from the backyard of A&M. That had a lot to do with him becoming an Aggie. I think LSU's got a great sales pitch here as well. You've got Kevin Peoples on staff, who was, I think, integral in the development of Savion Jones and Braden Swinson. And those guys really excelled in their money year, their draft year. And this theoretically is a draft year for Will Helt. He certainly has another year on top of it if he wants to use it. But that would make a lot of sense. This is a guy I would love it if LSU could lock in. But if you're competing with Texas A&M, you better get the checkbook out. It's just the way this whole thing works. Speaking of Kevin Peoples, speaking of big-time talented defensive end, this is not a name that we have had attached to LSU, but one that makes a lot of sense for LSU when you consider relationships. Williams Nwaneri is a former 5-star. He was the number 7 player in the nation, according to On3. He was the number 1 edge player in the nation in last year's signing class. And he signed with Missouri. He was out of Missouri. He signed with Missouri. Who was the edge rushers coach there when he signed? Kevin Peoples. Who was the defensive coordinator when he signed? Blake Baker. I don't know what that relationship is. Stands to reason it's pretty good. If you read the internet on Twitter, you would suggest this is going to be a big-time NIL play. Oklahoma was involved initially. We'll see if LSU can get a seat at the table and have a conversation. Now, Nwaneri was a massive recruit. 6'6", 265, 5-star, top 10 player in the nation, all that. He didn't really do anything this year. He played in 4 games. He had a sack against UMass, and that was it. He did not play a lot for Missouri. But the talent is unmistakable. And there are also 2 more years of eligibility, potentially 3 years of eligibility for this player if you could get him into your program. That's a relationship play. No reports that LSU is in the mix there from a visit perspective, but this is pretty fresh news. He just went in last night. We'll continue on with a couple of guys that we know that LSU has interest in and that have interest in LSU. Jamari Butler announced on Twitter last night that his final 3 are Nebraska. That LSU is involved in his final 3. He is from Nebraska, has played there for 3 years, 7.5 sacks, 65 tackles. He is another defensive end edge player, 6'5", 260. Not a star at Nebraska, but it's somebody that you can potentially develop like Braden Swinson. Braden Swinson was not a star at Oregon. He had like 30 career tackles. He played some outside linebacker. He played some edge. He was kind of just a guy. And he came to LSU, and for a month, really, the season there, that was really impressive. So I think that's a guy that they're going to take multiple defensive ends in this class. I've just listed Helt, Nwani, and Butler. So we'll see how things progress there. Last name here on this list for this segment is Zechariah Poyser. He is a safety from Jacksonville State. He is 6'2", 190 pounds. He just finished his redshirt freshman season at Jacksonville State. 47 tackles, 8 TFLs, 3 interceptions. LSU's safety play this year, not nearly good enough. Kylan Jackson just went into the transfer portal. We'll see what happens with Sage Ryan. We'll see what happens with Major Burns. You've obviously got Deshaun Spears, who is on campus here. Jordan Allen has gone to the transfer portal. So you've got a lot of shakeup at the safety spot. You're going to have to take one or two there. And Zechariah Poyser is one of the first guys that they've identified. And keep in mind, not every transfer has to come from the highest level of school. Not every transfer has to come from Alabama. Not every transfer has to come from Ole Miss or A&M. You can find diamonds in the rough elsewhere, and we've seen that consistently all over the conference and in the country. So I'm not going to dismiss Poyser just because he went to Jacksonville State. The measurables are good. He was productive there, and you've got a need for some talent at safety. So these are the first 5 names I wanted to bring to the table. We're probably going to do this segment every day. I think this is going to be an everyday segment for 2 weeks because you're going to get multiple players that are going to visit consistently. Finals are wrapping up all across the country, and you're going to have folks that are going to try to make a decision here in the next 2 weeks where they're playing football next year. Oh, by the way, you got teams that are trying to prepare for bowl games, trying to prepare for college football playoffs, but this is going on as well. So these are some of the names, and quite frankly, I'm good with just about all of them for LSU to take because you're talking about positions where you can't really field a team. You don't have enough edge rushers to field a football team right now. You don't have the requisite amount of healthy wide receivers to function as a football team. And you don't have a tight end capable of putting his hand in the dirt and consistently winning at the point of attack. So there are things that you absolutely have to do. And LSU's in the mix for it. We know that they're on the phone. We know that they're booking visits. And I don't question whether or not they can get guys in for visits. They got everybody in for visits last year. They can get somebody in. It's finishing the deal. And that's where the rubber meets the road on this thing. And I don't know. I don't know what these players are commanding on the open market. I don't know what LSU has to spend. I don't know how judicious Brian Kelly wants to spend about making sure you don't overspend there because you also have to fill here. Like, we just don't have enough data. We don't have a big enough sample size to know exactly how LSU wants to handle this. It sounds well and good to sit back here from the peanut gallery where basically I'm sitting right now and go, well, they got money. They had $1.5 million for Bryce Underwood. Just go pay the dudes. It sounds good. I don't know how much money they have. I don't know what Luke Has wants. I don't know what Will Helton wants. I don't know what Williams or Nwani wants. I have no idea. So I can give you the names as they're reported. I can tell you whether or not it sounds like a good fit. As far as how things finish in this madness that is the transfer portal with agents working the phone line constantly, I'm just going to be in wait-and-see mode on that. So that's kind of where we are right now. As we get more information, we will certainly pass that along, both here on the radio station and, of course, on LouisianaSports.net. That's our Genesis opening drive for this Tuesday. When we come back, I want to spend a little bit of time here on Kendre Miller. I talked about him on Friday leading up to the game with the Giants, but that's a guy that you need to see something from here in the last month. I want to talk about that and what that may mean for the future of the position in New Orleans. That's next on a Tuesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. Down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 360.
And friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
And our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. Playtime to bedtime. Our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you in a new 2025 Ram 1500 truck with $15,000 off MSRP. Automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Glenn West, go 24/7 with us here in about 12 minutes. We'll talk some LSU football as well as some hoops with Glenn. I'm going to spend this segment here on the New Orleans Saints, specifically Kendre Miller. I told you on Friday things I was looking for in the Saints-Giants game. Not necessarily whether or not the Saints could win the game. And you saw that it wasn't the most, especially early on Sunday. Just wanted to see some of the young guys. We've seen some really good stuff from both offensive tackles for the Saints this year. We feel pretty confident in those two young corners that they've got out there. But Kendre Miller is kind of a wild card. You just don't know a lot. Of course, you're well aware the Saints take Kendre Miller with the 71st overall pick in the third round in the 2023 draft. And fast forward to his rookie season, he's in 3 through 9. But it was far from extensive. He got 9 carries for 34 yards in the game in Green Bay. Then 2 weeks later, 12 carries against New England. And 12 carries for 37 yards. Until the final game of the season when he did yards on 13 carries. He also had a reception for 6 yards in that game. But to write home about. And then you get to year 2, and in the first workout of the first practice, that's the point where I basically wave the flag and go, I don't need Kendre Miller. This guy's never ready to play. And I was saying that based on his availability. You've got a guy who gets hurt, and he's on going like, this guy's never going to play. Well, come to find out, Ross Jackson, LouisianaSports.net, and Locked On Saints, and Dennis Allen was just kind of fed up with him. So it's like, well, you're not coming back. You're going on IR. And so I want to probably still don't have all the information, but I have new information that suggests, okay, maybe he didn't quite get a fair shake. Maybe Dennis Allen had a bit of an axe to grind because knew he was under pressure, and one of the guys who was expected to help this offense wasn't available enough in his mind, so he just... But I'm just going to offer that that's a possibility to extend this conversation. And so at this point, you did not have Kendre Miller active for the first 6 weeks of the season. He comes back against Denver. He has 6 carries in that game for 36 yards. Next week against the Chargers, 3 carries for 16 yards. Then inactive for 4 more weeks. I knew that he was going to have an opportunity to carry the football, and I was saying, I think this offensive line's getting a little bit healthier. I think they're going to be able to run block. See what Kendre Miller can do. And he averaged 3.2 yards per carry. You see some flashes with Kendre Miller, and that's the first thing you'd like to see. If you never see any of that, well, then you got some issues. There are some flashes. I liked a couple of the carries in the game against the Giants. There's a little bit of explosiveness. There is athleticism. There's reason to believe, but I'm going to need to see a little bit more sustained production. Now, there was a time 10 weeks ago where future of the Saints ground game and the future of the Saints running back position, because Alvin Kamara had not gotten a deal worked out, and it looked like the Saints really weren't interested in doing that. We're going to have to move on from Kamara once his contract was up, and Kendre Miller would be the guy. Well, now Alvin Kamara has signed, and you are going to have him for 2 more years. And he's going to be the face of your ground game and your rushing attack. Kendre Miller's still young and cheap. I mean, how often do you need me to say the words young and cheap when I'm talking about the Saints? Constant. It's all I ever talk about. So he is. The question is, I would really like him to take a significant amount off of Alvin's plate. Right now, Alvin Kamara is not showing a ton of ill effects from being among the NFL's leaders in touches. But you have to think eventually Father Time wins that battle. I don't know if that's next year. I don't know if it's late next. I don't know when he's going to certainly lose a step and not quite be as dynamic. And at that point, you'd like to just take something off his plate and dish it over to Kendre Miller. And they kind of tried that on Sunday. I don't know if it was super effective, but I'm not ready to throw all of that on Kendre Miller. But what I will say is, you can't two more years. You just can't. You can expect him to be productive. Expect him to be durable. He's always been those things. But Kendre Miller's got to do more than he's doing right now. And I was effective most of what he was doing was. Now, again, there is a piece to that pie that is very much on the offensive line. I get that. There are a lot of factors in place here. And then Derek Carr goes out, and at that point, you with a quarterback and Haener, and you're going to try to lean on the ground game real heavily. Plus, you're trying to run the clock out. So, okay. But that's something in his year 22 season, which is where Kendre Miller is right now. Over the next, they got to get him involved some way. Whether it's traditional ground game between the tackles, whether it's catching the ball a little bit more, the screen game. I need something from Kendre Miller. Now, you don't have Taysom Hill back there to take some of those carries. Kamara's plate, okay, there's your guy in Kendre Miller. You've got him under contract for a couple more important things for this franchise. Every little deal for a franchise that's standing at the bottom of the mountain looking up at this rebuild. It's just a long way. And everything you can get to go. 10 weeks ago, I would have said you're in big trouble. I got some new information when Dennis Allen was fired that maybe this wasn't a fair shake. Well, now Dennis Allen's gone. Now you're not necessarily in the playoff mix. I just want to see some positives from Kendre Miller here. And that I don't think is too much to ask. And if you can get the offensive line playing well and get a solid ground game going behind them, that is something you can build on going into next season, because Penning's going to be back, and Fuaga's going to be back, and Ruiz is going to be back, and McCoy's going to be back. Kendre Miller back. This is your running game. This is what it's going to look like. Foster Moore, like, this is it. The defense is going to have some turnover. Why do Ave's future holds? Rolling a little bit if you're New Orleans. I know Clint Kubiak will give every effort to making sure that happens. If you're looking for Saints content, you can find it on YouTube, Hunt on Saints. We've also got that in podcast form. You can find all of our Saints content. Certainly do appreciate that. If you're going to read about the Saints, LouisianaSports.net can help you out with all of that as well. Ross Jackson all over it there on LouisianaSports.net. Glenn West, go 24/7, talking Tigers when we come back on a Tuesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Every car on the lot is online. genesisofbatonrouge.com. Genesis of Baton Rouge is the only fully exclusive Genesis dealer in the state. You may not know a ton about Genesis. That's reasonable. They haven't been here all that long. When I say luxury vehicle, there are probably some brands that pop into your head. Put Genesis right there alongside them. Go check it out. Airline at PQ. That dealership is fine, y'all. It is first class. You walk in, the ambiance is great. The energy in there is fantastic. Quiet, serene. Got awesome coffee maker with every single type of coffee you could possibly imagine in there, plus the snacks. Their brand ambassadors are fantastic to work with, and you can learn a little bit about this line of vehicles. Get behind the wheel. You'll see the difference. It's so comfortable. Rides are so clean and sleek, and the safety is second to none. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Check them out online, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Every single new Genesis comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you in a new 2025 Ram 1500 truck with $15,000 off MSRP. $15,000 off the newly designed Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Kendre. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends.
Forward to 50 more.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Little news coming across the Twitter wire. You can't even refresh fast enough at this time of year. It's just absolute madness. Kamorian Pimpton heading into the transfer portal. We talked at the top of the show about LSU's needs in said portal, and Lucas from Arkansas, a tight end that they are welcoming in for a visit, is a guy they're going to target heavily here because they have one tight end on the roster, Trey'Dez Green, and he looks more like a basketball player than a tight end. So they got work to do at tight end for sure. Of course, J.D. LaFleur in this class, son of David LaFleur, but that's just 2 guys. They've got work to do. Probably multiple tight ends in this transfer portal class. It's been nuts to watch, but that's the nature of what we're doing here in this era of college athletics. Glenn West covers it all for Go 24/7, joins us every Tuesday on the gym.
Around 2 or 3 transfer portal additions at this time last week, and so now we're up to 14. So we'll see if a few more don't hop in, but we're certainly in the thick of it now.
Is that a concern, 14 guys in the portal?
I don't think so. I think really up until today's decision from Pimpton, I don't know that a lot of those guys are ones that you miss. I guess you could make the case for Deshaun Womack. Certainly, I think he probably would have slid in and been a starter for you next year, or at least competed for a starting role. But outside of him and then Pimpton today, I would say those are the you kind of build up a lot of those other rooms where you lost some of the depth with some quality players here over the next several weeks. But this, tight end now, it's got to be right up there now with safety, with wide receiver, with offensive line, with defensive line. I think all those position groups now are very much all in the same boat.
What is your sense on LSU's ability to land the guys that are visiting Ole Miss, that are visiting A&M, like the top of the transfer portal? My point at the top of the show is I know they can get a visit. They got visits last year. The question is, can you get them? What's your sense on where LSU stands there?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to how much you value those players. And, if there's another school that's out there, I think it's very similar to what Brian Kelly was talking about with the freshmen. If you're going to have a price point, you're going to negotiate. And if another school comes out there and exceeds it, it's just about how much of an appetite do you have for kind of upping your price and trying to figure that out. So I think with the portal, it's so much harder with the portal to develop those quick relationships. You really have to make a strong pitch for playing time, and then obviously a huge piece. You really can't, I don't think, build up a whole relationship with a player off of one meeting or a you have to make sure that the pitch and the visit is compelling enough, and obviously the financial part of it is something that I'm still in a wait and see mode with this group. I mean, we haven't seen these highly touted transfer portal guys. They've obviously hit on several of them over the last couple of years, whether it's Jaden Daniels or Mekhi Wingo, or you just go down the line of a couple of the guys that they've landed here over the first couple of cycles. But we'll have to just wait and see, because they need a lot of help, a lot of starter caliber help at a lot of different areas. And I just don't know what the funding looks like and just how aggressive they're going to be in terms of getting those guys to campus if other schools are making big pushes as well.
How differently do you think Brian Kelly feels about assembling a roster than he did 12, 15 months ago?
I think if you listen to his press conference last week, he sounded like a coach that has really going to have to alter his thinking, I think, going forward. And, whether that's recruiting freshmen and transfers in the same kind of way, I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's something we have to figure out over the next year or two with how LSU recruits and what kind of guys they land on a year in, year out basis. But I think this whole thing is, it's shaken all the coaches around the country, and kind of just having to things in the past and how they have to kind of quickly develop a new way of thinking and how to build. That's one of the things that I took away from, when Will Wade was here as the basketball coach. He just talked about how you just have to plan for 1 year ahead. You really can't afford to plan for 2 or 3 years ahead in any sport now, and that certainly is the case with football, and how quickly these guys hop into the portal, and how much roster turnover you have. I mean, you could see 50-60% of your roster turnover on a year in, year out basis, and you really have to be able to be not only diligent in your IL part of it as well, to develop those relationships and get those high quality players on board.
You mentioned Will Wade. I mean, Jay Johnson. That he had Kling and Neal and all those guys in it, and he kind of thought that was going to be the next iteration of what LSU was going to be post Cruz and Dugas and all that, and then all those guys up and left. It was kind of like, well, I guess you just got to go get a bunch of new guys, and that's the way that you've got to handle it. Obviously, what are your thoughts on Garrett Nussmeier right now?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that we haven't heard anything yet. I mean, I'm not hitting the panic button or anything, but because I do ultimately think that he comes back, but I think this is a very light quarterback class in terms of the talent. I think most people are kind of in agreement there that this isn't as deep of a talented quarterback class as maybe there have been in recent years, or even when you look ahead to 2026 and just kind of the big names that could pop in that class. So I think there's a lot for Garrett to think about right now, but I do know I take him for his word that he loves LSU. I think he in a perfect world would love to come back here, but if there's a team out there, and his dad is as connected as anyone in the NFL in terms of the scouting and what teams are thinking about the quarterback class for this upcoming draft, he's going to get a lot of great information from him, and certainly have a high second round grade on him. It's going to be to improve on his progress that he made this year.
Let's talk a little bit of hoops before we let you go. Tigers get a win on Sunday. Didn't get off to a terrible start, but it was life without Jalen Reed for the first time. What did you make of LSU's performance before finals on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, really impressed with the front court performance. I mean, that was something we talked with Coach McMahon and certainly the players about after the game. Damian Collins and Corey Chest. Chest has a double-double with 12 points, 12 rebounds. Just a really active defender and a guy that I think can create a lot of havoc for an opposing offense. So I really love watching him play. But really the surprise to me was Damian Collins because he had 18 points in that game, and really it wasn't all put back footwork on some shots around the paint. He was comfortable. He shot 3 threes in that game, made one of them. The stroke looked pretty smooth from what I saw on those 3 shots. So if they can get that kind of offensive output from Damian Collins, that is a huge, huge storyline for this team going forward. But so I was really impressed with the front court play. It was a little bit of a game in terms of how this team has been this year. It's usually are getting off to slow starts and finishing off well in the second half, but really they got off like gangbusters in this game and opened up a 20-point lead. And then second half they really struggled to shoot the ball for most of the half, and they were able to kind of hold on to their lead, but they didn't really kind of extend on it, and they actually allowed it to become a 9-point game. So I think this team is on the right path. I mean, look, I think this Jalen Reed thing is going to be big question marks come SEC play, but I think in the short term and through the non-conference schedule they can get through pretty unfazed here. But once that conference schedule gets here, I think you could really see the impact of what Jalen Reed not being around is going to have on this team.
How big is Saturday for this team against SMU in Frisco?
Yeah, it's another chance to get a high-quality win against a Power 4 team. They've got a couple of them already against Kent State and UCF and Florida State, of course. Those are all 3. Look, SMU is going to be a different kind of challenge. I haven't done a huge dive into what they've done in terms of this season so far, but another opportunity to get I would assume a quality. And it's really the last big non-conference opportunity that LSU has to improve on their resume. I mean, they have a couple of tinier games here over the last couple weeks of December. In terms of just continuing to build that momentum, they have a week to prepare for this game. So you would hope that they come in well rested and well prepared. And I think it's going to be an interesting game to find out just kind of how competitive this team will be without Jalen Reed and what that front court, what those front court minutes will do for LSU going forward.
Get back to refreshing Twitter and see who's back in the portal. We'll talk next week, Glenn. Thanks, man.
Yeah, hopefully not 2 or 3 more players and hop in over this 10-minute interview. Thanks, Hunt.
Can't rule it out. That's Glenn West, senior writer at Go 24/7. All your team coverage, recruiting coverage. 7. I'll react a little bit to Kamori and Pimpton there, and then I want to talk about what we saw last. One coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Got to make LeVare's better. Solo seat. And you can watch all the football and basketball action and bet on it with Penn Play and the ESPN Bet app. Penn, the online sportsbook, is now live in Louisiana. You can score big this season at LeBear's Baton Rouge. However you want to play. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 for help. Where every client is a
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show with former Texas A&M Yell leader, Hunt Palmer. Giga Maggies.
All right, wrapping up hour number one here. The news, I talked about it right there at the beginning of that segment with Glenn, but wanted to circle back to it. Kamorian Pimpton becomes the latest LSU Tiger to jump into the transfer portal, now bumping up towards 15 players that have entered the transfer portal since LSU and Oklahoma played back a week and a half ago. I've done this a number of times, so we're not going to go through the entire thing again, but it's worth mentioning, and I think that this is going to be... We're trending this way, but I think this is extreme. I do believe this is extreme. That LSU, from the 2022 class that was ranked 5th in the nation, 7 of the top 10 players in that class are already gone after 2 seasons. 17 are gone in total. There were 26 in the class. So you've had 17 players enter the transfer portal. I'm including Trey Holly in there because that's a weird spot because he's not in the transfer portal, but he's not playing football. So 17 have left, 9 have remained. The players that have left, Lance Hurd, who was 5-star, Deshaun Womack, 5-star. Toviano has stayed. That's the highest rated player in their class that's still here. Jalen Brown left last year. Shelton Sampson's in the portal. Jackson Howard's gone. DJ Chester's here. He started for you at center this year. Kamorian Pimpton's gone. Whit Weeks is here. Had an all-conference type level year. But Kylan Jackson is gone. And that's your top 10 with Caleb Jackson, who is a reserve running back for you. The rest of the way, Tyree Adams still here. Ricky Collins is gone. Mac Markway is gone. Trey Holly's not here. Ryan Yates is gone. Kyle Parker's hurt. Kai Prien's gone. Christian Brathwaite's gone. Jeremiah Hughes is gone. Paul Mabenga still here. Jackson McGowan's gone. Michael Doherty's gone. Dylan Carpenter still here. Ashton Stamps is a starter for you. And Connor Gilbreth gone. I just think that's jarring that 7 of the top 10 players in that class. I mean, think about when LSU signed that class, what you personally thought about what Lance Hurd would be, what you thought Deshaun Womack would be, what you thought Jaylen Brown and Shelton Sampson as a duo would be, what you thought that Kamorian Pimpton was, and LSU flipped him at the 11th hour with that 6'6" frame. Kylan Jackson, big-time safety. Caleb Jackson, their top 10 running back in the nation. It just hasn't worked out. The most impactful players from that class are a center that had his struggles learning a new position, a linebacker who made a ton of tackles in Whit Weeks, DJ Chester, obviously the center, and then Ashton Stamps, who plays for you at corner. Like, that's, through 2 years, that's been your biggest contribution. That sets your program back. It just does. And I don't know exactly where to nail down 100% of the blame, because that's always what we want to do. It's this person's fault. It's these kids' fault. It's the head coach. Like, everybody's trying to hammer home blame. I'm not really interested in why this happened. But I'm just telling you, when you've got a class in their second year that contributes that little, it is difficult to make up that difference. It is. And I just think that set the program back. Now, you can fix it in the portal. We all know this. But, man, is that a tough thing to sit there and scroll through when you consider how excited we've been over the years on National Signing Day. Now, if this happened 7 years ago, your program would be shot for 2 years. They wouldn't leave in these numbers because you'd have to sit out a year. But, man, if you had a class that produced this little 2 years in, 5-7 years ago, you couldn't recover. Now, LSU's job is to go recover. I wanted to briefly touch on this before we get to the end of the hour as well. It's a total shift. But I'm sitting there last night, and I'm watching Troy Aikman just gush over Joe Burrow's play and how he's his favorite quarterback to watch, and he does things as well or better than anybody in the NFL. And I'm watching Jamar Chase just absolutely eviscerate the Cowboys defense, as he does to just about everybody every week. And yes, it's more sustainable if you create a roster like Alabama did for 15 years or like Georgia has for the last 5, where there just seems to always be the next guy. But we haven't necessarily had that in Baton Rouge. You've had talented rosters. You've had rosters that put guys in the NFL, but there have been holes, and there have been a lot of 8 and 9 win seasons and not a lot of 11, 12 win seasons. For LSU, it's kind of when the stars align that everything shakes out. And to think about the stars that aligned on that roster with Burrow and Chase and Jefferson, and you look at the NFL statistically, and you see Jefferson and Chase as the top 2 wide receivers in the sport, and you look at what they will be here soon, with Jefferson's already signed the massive deal, and Chase is about to get his, and Burrow's already got his, and you look at what we watched here over that course of 4 months, I really believe that I did not take it for granted. I really believe that I enjoyed the excellence and savored it. But it goes by pretty quick. And now we sit here and it's been 5 years. But you're reminded every Sunday when you turn on the TV and Jefferson's just cooking, and Burrow, despite the fact that the team can't win a freaking game, is playing at an MVP level, and Chase is the best wide receiver in the league. I think if you asked 50 NFL fans to name the top 2 wide receivers in the NFL, how many would say Jefferson and Chase? Like 40? More than 40? You've got the 2 best wide receivers on the planet. They were on one team with the guy who's playing quarterback as well as anybody. You want to tell me Lamar or Josh Allen's playing better than Burrow? I'm not going to argue with you, but Burrow's right there on their level. As far as production, touchdown passes, all that kind of stuff, he's right there. They're not winning games like they should be. But to have those 3 guys, along with the highest paid center in league history, Damian Lewis, who's starting at a guard, Clyde went in the first round. I mean, y'all know. I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know, but I've said this many times in the past as well. Like, I'm just not going to get tired of talking about that. And maybe somebody from Tuscaloosa could come over here and tell me that I was clinging on to the past and loser mentality. Well, I'm going to Texas Bowl here in a couple of weeks, so I don't have a lot to grapple on with here. I'm just going to remember just how great that was, and you continue to be reminded of it every single Sunday when you turn on the TV. Special group of dudes, and they were on display last night. Shout out to the guy for the Cowboys who tried to pick up a blocked kick like a not very smart dude. Bengals won because of it. I'll take it. All right, that'll wrap up hour number 1 here. We'll come back, got lots to do in hour number 2. Portal continues to roll. We'll talk some Saints with Sharif at the bottom of the hour as well. Come back after Sports Center. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Look, closet space is not something that a lot of guys think about, especially growing up. But sometimes you move in with a lady like I did, and she looks at the closet situation in your house and says, this sucks. Well, we moved to mitigate that. That was always the plan. You don't have to move to get brand new closet space, custom closet space. And it can make all the difference. It certainly has in our house. David Duvall and his team are happy to do that for you. They can help you with your closets. They can help you with your bathrooms. If you need financing options, they can do that for you as well. 18 months, 0% if you qualify. It's a great time to pick up the phone and call David Duvall, or you can check him out online at OneBathAndClosets.com. It's David Duvall and One Bath and Closets. You can find him online, OneBathAndClosets.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Kendre. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
Success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized.
ESPN's Todd Archer, Cowboys linebacker DeMarvion Overshown tore the ACL, MCL, and PCL in his right knee last night and is scheduled for surgery this week. He'll be the 13th Dallas player on injured reserve. A day after Eagles defensive end Brandon Graham reacted to receiver A.J. Brown's criticism of their passing game by suggesting the relationship between Brown and quarterback Jalen Hurts wasn't as good as it once was because things had changed. Graham attempted to set the record straight. On the WIP morning show today, he apologized, attempted to walk back the comments, expressed optimism the team would emerge stronger. Philly does not need all this unnecessary noise heading into Week 15, notes ESPN NFL analyst Jeff Saturday.
What do you think the Eagles are going to deal with the entirety of this week going into a massive game with the Pittsburgh Steelers? What's going on in your locker room? Is this going to be another implosion like last year? Can you guys hold it together? Nick Sirianni, what can you do to fix this? What can you do, A.J. Brown? What can you do, Hurts?
Steelers receiver George Pickens likely out Sunday against Philly because of a hamstring injury.
Time with family, laughs with friends, and cash back? Discover's got you covered on the last one. That's because Discover doubles all the cash back you've earned on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cash Back Match. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Sharif Ishak, 25 minutes from right now. Talking some New Orleans Saints. LSU's got some players that have been given all SEC honors by the league's coaches. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm going to start talking about LSU and Baylor today. I have been candid about this since really LSU got off the field against Purdue a couple of years ago. There was a time where I really looked forward to LSU's bowl game. You got to play a different team. There was a lot of anticipation that was built up over time because you got used to a game every week and you had to wait a month for the next one. And when LSU played Georgia Tech after the 08 season that didn't go great, I was fired up to be in the Georgia Dome that night to watch that 08 team play one more time. Absolutely geeked to watch LSU play Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl when I was a freshman at LSU. Like that's huge stuff. And I enjoyed bowl games. But when I watched John Trey Kirkland go out there and try to play quarterback against Kansas State, that leaves a scar. And then the next year, Purdue's entire team failed to show up. They had Drew Brees walking around on the sideline. And LSU won by 1,000. And I'm just like, well, who cares? Purdue certainly doesn't. Last year, I was interested in the game, not for the result, but because Garrett Nussmeier was going to start, and I thought that was interesting. And so that gave an angle to be emotionally invested in. But consider what LSU's going to do in this bowl game on New Year's Eve. Your left tackle's not playing. You only have one scholarship tight end left. Mason Taylor's going to the draft. Kamorian Pimpton just went in the portal. So you got Trey'Dez Green, and that's it. Wide receiver, you got Xavier Thomas. You got Aaron Anderson. I don't even know what you have after that. Kyle Parker's hurt. C.J. Daniels is in the portal. Shelton Sampson's in the portal. Landon Ibietta's in the portal. I don't know who's playing wide receiver. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but the point remains. On the defensive side, you're probably not going to have Braden Swinson in the game. We'll see what Savion Jones decides to do. You've lost J.K. Johnson and Zaire Brown to the portal. So you've got Stamps, maybe Zai if he wants to play. But you don't have a lot of corners either. You get the point. Like, you don't really have your team anymore. And you're going to try to cobble it together and find a way to get into tight end sets. You're probably going to dress Bo Bordelon out to go in there and block a little bit. but that's not what LSU's team was. So, like, again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time grinding this bowl game. LSU's going to come out of that tunnel, hopefully. I used to be able to say this with confidence. Hopefully in the gold helmets and white jerseys and yellow pants. And when they do, you have my attention. But I cannot sell you a bill of goods that says, you got to create some momentum entering the offseason. Come on. Momentum? I don't think so. I don't think Florida State went 2-10 this year because their entire team quit on the Orange Bowl. I think that you're just going to play an inconsequential game for 3.5 hours and get on the plane and come back home to Baton Rouge. But we're going to play Baylor. So I'll tell you a little about Baylor, and we'll get deeper into Baylor as the game comes. But just a surface view of what Dave Aranda's team looked like. And candidly, I don't know who's gone in the portal from Baylor. I don't know who's leaving. I don't know who's redshirting. I don't know a lot about Baylor's personnel other than what the stat sheet told me this morning. But I do a piece for LouisianaSports.net called Statistically Speaking. And I just go straight numbers. What do the numbers say you are? No context, just numbers. And I was a little surprised at the numbers for Baylor on both ends. The offense has been pretty good. Baylor's offense has been pretty solid. All these numbers are ranking in the Big 12. So with their peers, second in the Big 12 in scoring offense, third in total offense, and not slanted one way or another. They're sixth in rushing offense and seventh in passing offense. But the most important thing you do is score, and they're second in the Big 12 in scoring. So it's been a solid effort offensively. There's nothing that jumps off the page at you. They don't prioritize. They do everything else pretty well, include avoiding negative plays, where they're first in the league in the fewest number of tackles for loss allowed by opposing defenses. Got a quarterback in Sawyer Robinson that's had a nice season. They've got a running back in Bryson Washington who went over 1,000 yards, and they've really ramped him up in the last 4 games. He averaged 156 yards per game in the last 4 games. He scored 9 rushing touchdowns over those 4 games. So it's a Baylor offense that's been pretty good this year. Now, Dave Aranda, I think, is one of the best defensive minds in the country. I have never, on either side of the football, been more confident in a coordinator in my entire life watching LSU football than I was when Dave Aranda was down on LSU's sideline. That may be rooted in fact. It may have just been a feeling at the time. I don't know. John Chavis did a heck of a job at LSU. Certainly Joe Brady came in and did a great job. Steve Ensminger was awesome. There was a great year with Gary Croton there. Like, there have been some good coordinators at LSU. Jimbo Fisher did a heck of a job as LSU's offensive coordinator. Will Muschamp did a great job as LSU's defensive coordinator. We know that he was running Nick Saban's defense. But for me personally, when I used to look down from the press box and see Dave's bald head walking the sidelines, I would think he's going to get us figured out on defense. And this Baylor defense has not been that good, really, at anything. 9th in the Big 12 in scoring defense, 10th in total defense, 11th in rushing defense, 11th in passing defense. None of that is very good. The only statistic that I look at in Baylor's defense and we go, that's good, is they're second in the Big 12 in third down conversions allowed. They only allow 35% on that down. But everything else is not very good. They're outside the top 10 in most everything. Now, the bright side to that, if you're Baylor, is that they've been a little bit better the last 2 games. They held Houston and Kansas to a combined 27 points, 17 in one game, 10 in the other. So my guess is that Dave Aranda didn't forget to forget how to coach defense, didn't have issues making adjustments. My sincere thought is that they probably don't have great players on defense. I can't back that up, but I know what Dave Aranda is capable of with good players on defense, and these numbers are not it. So I'm glad for Dave that things have gone really well over the last 2 months. This is a Baylor team that is coming off of a terrible year last year, and this year they started 2-4. They give up the Hail Mary to Colorado. I watched that game after LSU played UCLA, and They lose in just a gut-wrenching fashion in overtime with a Hail Mary that gets them into overtime. And at that point, you're sitting there and get to 2-4 after Iowa State whacks you, and it looks like Dave's going to lose his job because you had a bad year last year. You're 2-4. You just got smoked by Iowa State. It doesn't look good. And they rattle off 6 wins in a row. And that's going to keep him around for another year. And as I said many times, and as I kind of alluded to at the end of hour number 1, everybody that led me on that magic carpet ride in 2019, everybody involved gets my support forever. Everybody. And that very much includes Dave Aranda. So I'm pulling for him to have success at Baylor. I'd prefer it if he lost this game. But he probably would prefer to get this win to finish 7 in a row and try to move into the next season feeling a lot better than they did in September. But that's kind of a look at Baylor. The offense has been good. It's been balanced. It's been productive. The defense has not been as good, except for the last 2 games against lesser competition. I don't know that Houston is very good at all. In fact, I know that they're not. And Kansas was good, it felt like, late in the season, but they were awful early in the season. I think they probably ran out of steam after a couple of big-time games in a row. They played Colorado in a big game, and it's maybe they just ran out of gas. Jalen Daniels is a heck of a quarterback, but it's just not a Baylor team that's great. I'm curious what kind of attendance will be like. Certainly Houston has got a lot of Baylor fans and a ton of LSU fans in it that don't have to travel to the game. They just have to show up on New Year's Eve in the afternoon and catch a ball game that probably won't cost them a ton. So maybe you get a decent crowd in there, but I can't sell you a bill of goods. This is some sort of monster bowl game or momentum shift for the LSU program. The momentum shift for LSU's program is going to go on over the next 2 weeks, and that is how many players can you pay to get into the transfer portal and come play at LSU. That's the momentum shift for LSU's program, not the Texas Bowl. But we'll break down Baylor a little further when we get closer to things. That was just an initial look. If you'd like to look at all the statistics that Baylor's got and are curious kind of how I arrived at some of these numbers, you can do so at LouisianaSports.net. The piece is called Statistically Speaking, a first look at Baylor. Speaking of LouisianaSports.net, tons of stuff up on the site right now. Got a breakdown of Kamorian Pimpton leaving. Got a couple of targets that LSU may be looking at in the transfer portal. The Saints signed a veteran quarterback earlier today. And Ben DiNucci, so there's a piece up on that. Pro Football Focus grade the Saints over the Giants. All that is available for free at LouisianaSports.net. If you're driving around listening to me and you're thinking, man, I really like to hear about LSU, the Saints, transfer portal, SEC football, it's all right there at LouisianaSports.net. Go check it out for free on the site today. All right, Sharif Ishak with us in 15 minutes. When we come back, some LSU players, first team and second team all conference, according to the coaches. We'll tell you who that is. That one up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carbo and his team are fantastic folks, and they're fantastic at what they do, which is make sure that businesses are taken care of in their biggest time of need. When I say insurance, you probably think premium, but there's another side of that coin, and until you've experienced it, it's hard to put yourself in those shoes. But hurricanes happen. Car accidents happen. Cyber attacks happen. Employee lawsuits happen. And when they do, if your policy was bought on the cheap and doesn't have the proper provisions in it, and the coverages in it, the endorsements in it to make sure it responds to one of those issues, you could be in big trouble. And if you're bargain shopping all the time for insurance, that could bring that trouble about. You should trust your insurance broker. If you don't, call the Highland Insurance Group. Call Jonathan Carver and his team. Say, hey, I'd like to take a different approach to this. I'd like you to help me out with my insurance program. They will get you set up. They will get you into an advantageous spot so that if that issue does arise, you're covered and you can continue running your business while they handle the claim situation. It's Highland Insurance Group. You can find them online at HighlandIG.com. If you're looking for a magic bullet just to save that 15%, probably not the phone call to make. If you want to make sure your business is protected, it is. Highland Insurance Group. Find them online, HighlandIG.com.
When you can't rely on technology, you can rely on Mountain Cold Refreshment.
Dave's back on.
There. Ordinary for those with safety and tech to keep you connected. supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Kendre. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagine your #1 park system in the nation.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
Hunt Palmer, lover of LSU, Shreveport, and mayonnaise on hot dogs. The Hunt Palmer Show.
All right, the Southeastern Conference. I want to make sure I'm right. It's the coaches, right?
Yes.
Yes, it is the coaches. I want to make sure I was correct there. Southeastern Conference coaches, first, second, third teams are out. LSU had, let me count that up, that is 7 players honored on the first team. Offensive lineman Will Campbell and linebacker Whit Weeks. So good for Whit Weeks being first team all-league. He was in the top 3 in the league in tackles. Every once in a while, I would do a pro football focus story for Louisiana Sports.net on Sundays, and his grades were very poor, but sometimes they were really high, and he had a lot of tackles, so I'm glad to see he was recognized there as a first-team all-league player. On the second team, Emory Jones and Braden Swinson, as well as kickoff specialist Aaron Burrell. Well-deserved for him as well. So there's 3 players on the second team. And then the third team, Mason Taylor and Xavier Thomas. If you heard that and you had the reaction of Mason Taylor's third team, I kind of thought the same thing. And I went back and I looked and said, okay, well, who did they have in front of him? Eli Stowers was first. And I don't have a huge problem with that. Eli Stowers is a really good athlete. He's at Vanderbilt, for those that don't know. He was actually a 4-star quarterback out of the state of Texas, and Jimbo Fisher picked him over Jalen Milroe in that class and took him in. He didn't work out at quarterback at Texas A&M, obviously, and he moved on to Vanderbilt where he moved to tight end, and I thought he had a really nice year. I'm okay with that. Had a good year at Texas, and I can't claim to have watched all of Gunnar Helm's snaps, but I think that I could make a real case for Mason Taylor in recognition, along with Xavier Thomas, who was probably helped by the oh no, never mind, that was Aaron Anderson that ran the last kickback. And so that was that's first, second, and third team. A couple of specialists there for LSU. So if you're looking, Campbell and Weeks on the first team, Jones and Swenson on the second team, Taylor on the third team. A little bit team. Looking at the rest of that first team, for those that are curious, Jackson Dart was the first team quarterback. I would absolutely agree. First team running back, I certainly agree with that. Jarquez Hunter, who's had a really nice career on some pretty bad Auburn teams. Jarquez Hunter was first team as well. Ryan Williams and Luther Burden, that's pretty explosive tandem at wide receiver there for the SEC. I mentioned Eli Stowers. On the offensive line, Kelvin Banks, Will Campbell, and Tyler Booker from a player on the first team. Defensively, this is interesting because you've got Kyle Kennard from South Carolina, who comes from Georgia Tech. You've got Walter Nolan at Ole Miss, who comes from A&M. You got James Pierce at Tennessee, and then you got Princely Umanmielen from Ole Miss, who comes from Florida. So of the defensive line, 4 of your deal. Somehow Whit Weeks was also second team. Oh no, that's first team. Sorry, I'm reading the first team. Yeah, so your first team. You also had a couple transfers on the defensive backfield, and Trey Amos from Alabama, who is at Ole Miss now, is a transfer. The offense on the first team was full of guys that have played their time in one spot. Your Will Campbells and Kelvin Banks and all those guys. The first team defense, though, very much highlighted by some transfers. Quinn Ewers is your second team running back. He's a transfer. Auburn, transfer. So you look at this, Caden Proctor from Alabama is on the second team. He's kind of a transfer. He transferred from Alabama to Iowa and then back to Alabama before he played a game. But I point that out because looking over statistics and listening to podcasts from other teams than years on other teams than a lot of my listeners. Not all. Some of you are sickos. I get it. But just for perspective, just how many players teams are counting on from the transfer portal. And it's why when the ink dried back last Tuesday or Wednesday on that signing class, I was looking at this going, this is a big deal, but I can't help but think by that 2022 LSU class that's been decimated by the transfer portal. And maybe it's just the reality as I look at the first team all-league selections, and I'm looking across the board at just a ton of guys who have transferred. And some of them have transferred from places like Georgia Tech and Purdue. Some of them have transferred from Texas A&M Commerce, which is where Andrew Armstrong comes from. It's just a mixed bag. You've got to evaluate the transfer portal and hit on the right guys. Ole Miss last year went super high profile. Like Prince Umanmielen comes from Florida, and Walter Nolan comes from A&M. You've got Trey Amos from Alabama, and you are bringing in former 4-star recruits from high-end programs. But they're not all like that. And that worked out pretty good. He was best wide receiver in the country when he was healthy. My sincere concerns about LSU back 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, after you'd lost a couple games in a row, you weren't going to off your defensive ends. You're losing a lot of wide receiver. You're losing maybe the entire offensive line, save Chester. Now, some of that may change. The shelves. And so it's I think a lot of times we spend and we only concern ourselves with, oh my God, CJ Sean Womack is leaving. Oh my God, all these players are leaving. Oh my God, the 2022 class is ravaged. And you just focus on your little bubble. And you just don't know how often guys from Arkansas or Florida are going in the transfer portal. It's just not necessarily on most of y'all's. Dixon and Matt Moscona and Charles Hannegriff and Jacques Doucet, and you just see all the LSU stuff. Well, you're not following the three beat writer from world, and you may not notice that everybody else is losing guys too. LSU is up there. Arkansas is the only team in the league that I know for sure has lost more players. But I look at the players that LSU's lost, and if you can go into the transfer portal and find a few guys, it doesn't feel like upgrading is so it's just a different world. And I promise you this, like, I'm adjusting to it. I'm still trying to grasp how you can judge program health. Ask me, like, is Brian Kelly getting the job done? Is there a bright future for LSU? It's just difficult to answer that with any conviction because I just don't have any idea, earthly idea, what the team in 2026 looks like. You can't even do it. So it's hard to sit here and evaluate where the program is. Like, I could look at LSU in 2011 and suggest they were going to churn a ton of guys into the NFL over the next 2 years. You had Ruben Randall and Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham and Jeremy Hill and Zach Mettenberger and Kevin Minner and Barkevius Mingo and Sam Montgomery and Benny Logan and Michael Brockers and Tyrann Mathieu and Morris Claiborne, Eric Reed and Brandon Taylor. And you had 3 years, and I knew they were going to be there. And you could look at that team coming off the field in 2011 and go, hey, they're still going to be really good on defense next year, and we'll see what that offense looks like. And it finally figured out. You heard all those names I just rattled off, and it's been a decade and a half since those guys got to campus, and I can still rattle through them. And I just don't think I have any chance at identifying the 2025 LSU team and what that looked like on paper 5 years from now. It's just going to be difficult for me to go back and like do that because it just turns over so quickly. And I think that at times it's healthy to look at the all SEC list and go, hey, all these guys that all these schools had that were good, they found them in the transfer. I just think that it was probably a little bit different dynamic when some of these guys. So that's the dynamic. That's the thing we can't account for right now. And we're just going to have to watch over the next week and see how it goes. LSU pulls in 3 commitments in the next 72 hours based on a couple of visits. You can start to go, okay, they may have some of this figured out. Tuesday, and LSU hasn't added anybody in the transfer portal, you can start to get nervous. That's as blunt as I can be about it. But not for now. Just kind of look around. You want to they're all listed right there. All right, let's take a time out. Come back. Sharif Ishak talking Saints. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Look, safety is a big deal. When you're buying a new vehicle, you want to be sure that you and your family are safe. And I can promise you this. The entire line of Genesis was given the IIHA top safety pick. Some of them were top safety picks plus. What I can promise you is that every vehicle on the line, sedans all the way through the SUVs, are all outfitted with the same safety features. They don't shortcut anywhere. That's just a promise they make you at Genesis. It's all part of being a Genesis buyer. If you've not given an opportunity, just get on by. They're at Airline near PQ. They're across from Women's Hospital. If you're in the market for a new vehicle, you're probably on Airline Highway anyway. Just stop in. Say the Hunt Palmer Show sent you in there, and get behind the wheel of a Genesis over at Genesis of Baton Rouge. Every car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. You can certainly browse the entire selection there. It's genesisofbatonrouge.com.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana. 450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serve.
Welcome back to the Hunt Palmer Show. Here's your host, Hunt, the uniform czar, Palmer. Which uniform do you hate now?
Chugging right along here on this Tuesday. It's that time of the week where we head out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline, chat with our guy Sharif Ishak, WDSU down in New Orleans, all things Saints and Pels.
It depends on the day of the week, the team we're talking about, and the weather outside.
Talking about the Saints, and it's a little gloomy, so we'll see how that treats you here for the early portion of this interview. Are you encouraged that the Saints beat the Giants?
Win. That looked like a Dennis Allen win.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Win. I think the entire team knew that was just ugly. That was a special teams disaster for both teams. I mean, they both looked like they weren't trying to win that game.
and scrapping pretty good. My biggest concern was that they didn't really get the ground game going on Sunday. What was your concern, and what was an ugly football game?
I mean, the Giants are just absolute garbage, dude. They're not good.
Yep.
I mean, for the Saints not to be able to run the ball against them was pretty sad. To be there, yeah, that was sad. I mean, it truly was sad. To literally tank and let you beat them, and you only put up 14 points against them. So, not really a good showing by the team.
Have you seen enough flashes from Kendre Miller to feel like he's going to be a contributor at some point?
Yeah, I mean, the Powell was a nice run. I told you, when healthy, he's a nice running back. I mean, he had a nice kickoff return too. So, I mean, he could flash. He has that could be beneficial for the franchise moving forward. But as I always got to stay healthy, just like most of these players. I think he's got it. I mean, they're not going to draft another running back. No, they might draft another guy here and there. So yeah, he's got the talent. Just got to stay on the field.
Derek Carr not going to be on the field, we don't think, coming up on Sunday. Broken left hand in this season. Is that a good idea?
When you look at the money, the non-guaranteed, the guaranteed money of his injury guarantee, his physical after the season is $30 million. If I am the Saints, I'm like, I don't care. You're not going out there to play at all. I mean, the Saints are pretty much going to be out of it after the next two games. If they lose these next two games because of what the Falcons and. But no, I'm not playing him. I know he's going to try to play. He may on the left hand like a soft catch, and you might be able to go out there and play. For himself and smart for the franchise, no, you don't do it.
There's part of me that wants to, admire Derek Carr for the toughness and wanting to go out. And he couldn't really play, and his play was severely compromised because of it, and he didn't play better until he got help. The big cast on his hand?
The teams are going to be like headhunting his hand. I mean, they're not. Commanders are trying to get into the playoffs. They're not sitting here like going to lay back and not hit him. I mean, they're going to go after him if he comes out there and plays. I mean, I doubt he plays. I mean, I could be wrong. I just don't see how you're going to go out there and play with a broken left hand. And you could try. I mean, you can. I don't know how it's going to be hard for you to grip the ball. You can shoot it up with anything you want. After a while, that wears off, and once teams start hitting you on it, I mean, how effective are you going to be? You're going to try running the ball the whole time. They're going to stack the box. You're going to try the quick passing game. They're just going to move up the defense a lot in the coverages. It's just, to me, it's just the whole thing's a bad idea. I don't want to. I would not play him the rest of the season. I really would.
Who would you play? Would you play Hainer or Rattler?
I mean, Rattler got his chance to start, but it was almost like an unfair shake because he got a team that was absolutely devastated by injuries.
Yeah,
and then you got Jay Kendre out there, who's been the backup essentially the whole season whenever Carr's the starting quarterback. My gut tells me if Carr doesn't play and shouldn't play, it's probably going to be Jay Kendre. Give him a Commanders. Maybe they can, move. So maybe they give each guy a chance since the team is pretty much healthy because, I mean, they really don't have any weapons outside of Kamara that's been a consistent starter. So.
It's Brian Brzee stuffed the stat sheet and made the play to block the kick at the end. I feel like he's coming on a little bit here in his second year. What have you made of his performance?
Yeah, yes. I mean, his sack production has gone up. I mean, I told you last year if he had like 4 or 5 sacks his rookie year, it'd be nice. I mean, he's getting close to doubling that at this point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, good. I mean, he's I think close to 7.5 sacks. So, I'd say that's a really good season up to the point for for Brian Brzee. The blocked field goal was nice, even though that maybe should have been called for a penalty because Peyton Turner was holding the snapper down, so the center down. But, the Giants aren't going to complain. They got a loss out of it. So, yeah, I think the one thing he needs to work on is his run defense. That's being a defensive tackle, you're supposed to be a guy who's got to be very consistently good at being a run defender, and it's kind of been lacking at times for him. I think he knows that. One of the things he said during training camp that he had to work on was he had to work on his run defense. So, but in terms of sack production and pressures, yeah, I think he's done a solid job getting back there to get to the quarterback.
What do you make of Sunday's game? Jaden coming to town.
My guy Jaden, what could have been if we had just tanked all of last season. Go. He was just running and throwing all over the place. I told you last week, a couple of weeks ago, I thought that the Rams would win the game by a touchdown. I think we're looking at another 7 to 14-point game against the Commanders. Look, they got a good defense. I think that Dan Quinn does a good job. I mean, outside of the whole Jaden Daniels talk, I think Jaden will do what he has to do. The Saints have. I'm assuming they're going to try to run the ball a little bit on the Saints defense, see if they can get some yards on them, and then try to pop the play actions and RPOs on that defense with Jaden. So that's defense. I mean, it's as simple as that, and I think Dan Quinn will pin his ears back.
Commanders Sunday from the Dome. Let's talk some Pels. Hearing some buzz that there maybe some phone calls coming to New Orleans about the availability of Herb Jones. What does that make you think?
Not happening. Herb Jones isn't going anywhere. I think Herb, Trey, and I guess you could say Eve Misi are untouchables, even though they say Zion is one. But if you can get rid of Zion, eat BI and probably CJ, who's done everything they've asked him to do up to this point, that probably can get rid of those three guys, they would. But I just don't see Zion going anywhere. But Herb's a no for me. It's a 100% no.
Do you feel like the Pelicans are somewhere near trading a key piece to this nucleus?
Yeah. I mean, that would be it. It would be Brandon Ingram. I mean, I know he's not healthy right now because of the sprained ankle. I think that he's they're not going to be on a contract next year. I'm sure a team who likes to score that can use a guy in the playoffs. I'm sure he'll be healthy as soon as he goes to another team, and he'll be awesome, just like how most players, leave New Orleans and become awesome. Yeah, I just think that if you get something good in return, you do it. I mean,
who's Pelicans?
It just feels like with the Pelicans, it's you thought you had all this talent, but it's constantly the same guys getting hurt over and over and over again. And it's a tough one because you need a core. Say the Saints because they're too old. Roster's not set up to succeed until they rebuild it after the 25 season. So I say the Saints in a bigger know how to navigate it. The Pelicans just haven't been able to navigate 6 years of Zion and Brandon Ingram. So really is tough. I'll go situation because they navigated.
None of it's super exciting, but we appreciate you checking in here. We'll talk next week, Sharif. Thanks, man.
All right, hon.
Sharif Ishak, WDSU down in New Orleans. As we mentioned, Jaden Daniels invading the Dome coming up this weekend. We'll come back and close it out. Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com is the website. You're looking for a Christmas present for the golfer in your life? How about a golf simulator in the house? If you got room for it, Mitchell Fisher and the team at Audio Video Security Solutions can help you install it. If you have no idea where to even start that process, I got Mitchell Fisher's cell phone number. Just call him. They don't provide it, but he can walk you through step by step how to get that installed at your home, and they are happy to take care of it. His number is 225-439-7920. Again, his name is Mitchell Fisher, 225-439-7920. Give them a call. Get that golf simulator set up in the house. It gets dark so early now. It's been dreary and wet. Got a guy, girl who's a golf addict in the family, wants to deal with that golf simulator inside the house. Audio Video Security Solutions can help you with it start to finish. Check them out on Instagram, AVSS_BR, or online, AVSSLA.com. Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Kendre. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and Citizens Bank and Trust are bringing you the ultimate holiday gift with our Home for the Holidays sweepstakes. Imagine 2025 with your holiday gift. Oh, nope. Imagine 2025 with your rent or mortgage covered up to $18,000. We're here to make your holidays a whole lot brighter. Just sign up at 1045ESPN.com and you could be living stress-free next year. The winner will be notified on December 20th. That is next Friday. No comment, Hunt. I don't need it. I don't need it, Hunt.
How would you grade that read?
No comment.
No comment.
That's how I would grade it.
Let's just play Take It or Leave It. you read these words, or are you good?
Okay, that's uncalled for, Hunt. That's uncalled for. All right, first one here. Lane Kiffin gave his thoughts on the current calendar structure for college football, saying, quote, "It really is a dumb system," in reference to the early signing day being a week prior to conference championship games and the transfer portal opening multiple weeks before the season actually ends. You agree with Kiffin? Take it or leave it.
I will take it. I do agree with Lane.
I'll take it.
But I don't have a great solution because these players have to enroll in the school. So if you're going to start classes, right there at the beginning of January, you've got to give players December to consider where they're going to go. I don't have a great answer. If we're going to just let everybody go carte blanche and do whatever the hell you want all the time, which is what we've decided we're going to do, there's never going to be a great time to blow up everyone's roster. You want to have guys in for spring, so they've got to be enrolled in the spring semester, so they've got to look. It is what it is. It's not great. These bowl games are just ridiculous. So I went through it at the top of the show, or the top of the hour. Like, LSU's going to go there with one scholarship tight end, no left tackle, half the cornerback depth is gone. They got like 3 wide receivers. It's just, we'll see.
All right, next one here. 2025 consensus number 1 men's basketball prospect AJ Dibansa committed to BYU today. The Cougars getting the top player in 2025. Take it or leave it.
I will take it.
I'll take
I like it a lot. You know why I like it a lot?
Because he's not going to an SEC team.
He's not going to Alabama, who was second on his list, which makes me very, very happy. Sorry, Coach Oates. Didn't get the number 1 player. Hate to see that. Go Cougars. Really pulling for you, BYU, for, I guess, the 1 year. Apparently, the reports are that this NIL deal was around $10 million for a year. So, that's pretty significant.
The Mormons got some money up there in Utah. Next one here, ESPN insider Shams Charania named his top 2 potential trade targets for the upcoming trade deadline, one being the Miami Heat's Jimmy Butler, which is interesting, but the other being the Pelicans' Brandon Ingram. The Pels will deal Ingram. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I think that is going to happen. I think that everyone kind of realizes that this did not work. And I've said this multiple times. I'm not backing off it for a second. I don't think it's anybody's fault that it didn't work. I thought that the moves they made and the players they assembled made some sense. It just didn't work. You never stayed healthy, and you never got them out on the floor to create any sort of continuity or rhythm or play in the impactful time of the calendar. They just never got healthy, and that sucks. I don't think it was a disaster. I could look and this is a random example, but I could look at the Chicago Bears. There's a reason they stink. Every time they draft a quarterback, they fire the coach 1 year later and bring in a new coach and a new coordinator, and they rinse and repeat, and nothing they do makes any sense. This actually made some sense. It just didn't work. Those are 2 different things.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Next one, or last one here at least, Mark Gastineau confronted Brett Favre recently.
Did you see this video?
About his broken sack record. He refused to shake Favre's hand and told him he wanted the record back. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it.
Leave it alone.
I don't know if Mark Gastineau felt better after 2 sacks. It's pretty great accomplishment. I think Favre did take a dive for Strahan. If he wants the sack record back, that's disappointing, but that's not really how it works. So I think it was a little...
Yeah, something like that at least.
That you gotta let that one lay 20 years later.
Yeah, I think
really
so.
ticked off the a trip to go see Favre to confront him. It was weird. It was a weird deal.
Strange.
And it looked even weirder. I'm not even doing it justice. Go look at the video. It was an awkward encounter. Favre, I think, just kind of walked away, and eventually was like, all right, thanks, man. See you never. That's it on this Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Open the show today talking about LSU transfer portal targets. If you want to hear some of the players that are coming in for a visit, or my thoughts on how well they could Kendre Miller, has he shown some flashes? I discussed that in hour number 1. Glenn West, go 24/7, talking football and basketball. The top of hour number 2, a first look at the Baylor Bears. What is LSU getting into in this Texas Bowl? And the All-SEC coaches team was released a little earlier, and I talked about that at 2:15 before we got to Sharif. If you missed it, catch it on demand wherever you find your podcast. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, our website, 1045ESPN.com. or, of course, on YouTube. Reminder, Hoops with Hunt is back on wherever you find your podcasts. We're talking basketball whenever we do. It goes there to Hoops with Hunt. We're going to get out of here. That's all we can do here on this Tuesday. Matt Moscona is going to drive you home next on After Further Review. Have a safe and wonderful Tuesday. We're back tomorrow, same time and same place. Hunt Palmer Show right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa been running things at Boudreaux's Electrical for 40 years. Now their son Justin kind of taking the reins down there in Napoleonville. Every single Generac home standby generator you get from Boudreaux's Electrical Services is going to come with a 7 to 10-year warranty, depending on the type of generator that you select. Every single generator installation is going to be done by a full-time employee, and they're going to use the highest quality in the tubing and wiring, and they're going to do most of that installation underground so that it looks nice as well. But more importantly, it gives you that peace of mind of knowing that the power is not going to go out on you. Whether it's a hurricane, one of those afternoon summer thunder showers we had an ice storm this past year. Also, somebody just drive off the road and hit the line and knock your power out. That's a nuisance. Protect yourself from that nuisance at Boudreaux's Electrical. You can check them out online, boudreauxelectrical.com, or give them a call, 985-397-1562. That's 985-397-1562. The easy way, as usual, is boudreauxelectrical.com, boudreauxelectrical.com.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Savor game day platters and snacks, plus drink specials at 1717 Kitchen and Cocktail. So come out for game day and let our team make you the MVP. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.